Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of Unbreakable. I am Elle. Today we will be talking about lupus. Now, since Kay is a lupus fighter, she will be giving us some insight into what it's like.
Hi, everybody. I've had lupus since 2013. I know in my bio, I went into, what that was like, how I got diagnosed and stuff. But basically, there's 11 qualifiers, and you have to have 4 for the doctor to even consider you to have possible lupus. Going through them quickly, it's like the butterfly rash, which goes across your nose and spreads out across your cheeks, which most people with lupus get. I had it. It was kind of faint. Then there's like what they call a discoid rash, and that was the first thing I got, which is a rash that goes all over your arms, your legs.
Oh my goodness.
I had it on my scalp.
It had to be so painful.
It was painful. And basically, it's always like in exposed areas to the sun. The sun is basically what sets it off.
Wow.
So you get like a reaction to sunlight. For me, like I would go out to the pool. I was like a sun worshiper, and I would go out to the pool. And after like, I don't know, half hour, if that, my body would start to get these like splotches all over it, like white splotches with like a red rim and just everywhere, all over my legs mostly. Yeah. And I would go inside and I would literally lay down and just feel like I had the flu instantly.
Oh.
So that was one of the things that was like, okay, something's really not right here,
Exactly.
Yeah. And then oral ulcers I would get in my mouth. You can also get them in your nose, and they're super painful. Usually get those when lupus flare is super bad. I didn't get a lot of those in the very beginning, but I did get them in my nose, and I was just like,
oh my god.
Yeah, it's really annoying, and
What do you
painful.
do? Is there anything you can do? Like,
not really. I mean, you just have to let it pass and let it heal. There's really nothing you can do. Yeah. And then like the joint pain for me, when I started having joint pain, it was really weird because it started like in my wrist, my elbows, my shoulders, my knees, and ankles mostly. And basically, I couldn't hold like anything more than 10 pounds because I couldn't grip. It wasn't that I wasn't strong enough, but like my grip with my fingers and my joints. So I would drop stuff constantly. And that's one of the reasons, too, that I went to the doctor. Because if you could imagine all this happening at once, I was like,
oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God, I'm dying.
Right?
What's happening to me?
Yeah.
And then also chest pains. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had bronchitis. But when when you breathe in, it's like stinging.
Yes.
And that's like basically because of the inflammation around your lungs. So that's another one. And then you have trouble with your kidneys. You have trouble with like neurological, like brain fog. And then you have issues with your anti-DNA that'll come up funky on your labs. And then ANA is like a big one. ANA is a huge one. It doesn't always come back positive for me, which is interesting. But when I was first diagnosed, it was really super high. So if you go to the doctor and you suspect you have lupus, just have them keep testing that ANA, because if you're flaring, you're going to test positive. And if you're not, you're probably not going to test positive. It's just one of those things. And so all of that stuff was happening all at once. And it's really, I can't even get into like how it's so uncomfortable. It's like you're itchy, your skin hurts, you feel like you have a fever all the time, your joints hurt. Suddenly you can't like hold the laundry basket, you can't put the vacuum, all these things that you're normally doing every day, you can't do. And you really don't know what's happening. It's kind of scary. And then when they tell you what it is, because this whole time you're like leading up to, I just want a doctor to tell me what it is, because then my dreams will come true and they'll give me medicine and I'll go back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you get a diagnosis like lupus, there's no going back to normal. I mean, there's no cure. So it's something that you have to live with forever. And you're going to have times where these symptoms all come back. So there are triggers that I'll get, that'll cause one or two of the symptoms to come back. And then I know, okay, this is not good. And my doctor will put me on prednisone or something to kind of just stop everything from getting worse.
So when you have a flare, that's what you use.
Yeah, I mean, I was on prednisone for 5 years, which is not good. Not good. While they were trying to find a medication that worked for me. The only thing that was managing my lupus at that time was prednisone, and long-term steroid use is really dangerous. It's bad for your bones. So that's going to be an issue for me in the future. But when they finally found out what worked for me, which is methotrexate, they were able to take me off of prednisone. So now, if I do have an issue and things are going in a bad direction, I just call my doctor and he calls in like a short-term prednisone schedule where you start really high and then you start to weed it down a little by little until it's gone. And that just basically calms down the activity, the disease activity and the inflammation so that you feel better.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very good. So I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What would you say is your worst symptom or symptoms from this disease on a personal level?
Well, that's really hard, but
well, that's why I said worst or worst.
Yeah. I think the worst for me is the uncertainty, not being able to be dependable, not knowing when I wake up the next day how I'm going to feel, because it makes your life, even when you're treating your disease, you still feel like you're a slave to your disease, because at any time things can change. You could be going along good for a month, and then all of a sudden you have 2 months where you're just struggling again and you're just like wondering what happened,
Right.
So I think for me, that is the worst. And then also, like, on a physical level, the fatigue is unbelievable. And I'm sure you can relate with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. But when you get tired, it's not just like people who say, "Oh, I only got 2 hours of sleep last night, I'm so tired." Like that, it's not that kind of tired. No. It's like,
I am a zombie unless you put me to bed.
Yeah. And like, to me, I would say to people, right now, it's taking too much energy for me to breathe. Like, I could stop breathing and be happy right now,
Not meaning you want to die.
Just to get some rest. Like, that's how tired you are, like.
Right. I totally get it.
Yeah. And just like walking across the parking lot, like, you don't know if you're going to make it, kind of thing. It's just.
Yeah. There's some days you're just like, oh, I barely made it through the store. Now I have to get to the car. Oh, God.
Yeah. You're like, I made it this far. How am I going to get back now?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, I would say that's it. And then, also feeling like a burden to your family, because you can't always do the things that you're supposed to do for everybody. And it makes you feel horrible. It just does.
It does. And I think that's universal for all of us in the chronic illness community.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah. That's one of the worst, I think.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. And even when your family is extremely supportive and they all get it and they're like, "Hey, it's okay. It's fine. We get it. Don't worry about it." You still can't help but feel like, this isn't what my husband signed up for, or, it's not fair to my kids that I don't want to make dinner tonight, or, like, just the little things like that are important to a family system. Or the house gets really dirty, or, I'm sure I'm not saying anything that other people can't relate to. It's just all that typical stuff. Or in my too, it's like medications are so expensive, and you think about what you could do with all that money if you didn't have to spend all of it on, medications that you feel like aren't really working. But I mean, I know that they do work, because if I don't have them, boy, does my symptoms get 1,000 times worse. So I know they work, but sometimes I get really frustrated and I feel like I just want to go off all my meds and, use the money for the family to do something else, because it just makes me feel bad.
Yeah. I think we all go through that, though. I know I know my dad has, I know my mom has. You just get to that point, you get so disgusted. It's like all this money going out just to keep me, just to keep me going. This is just not right. It's not fair. But it is how it is, and the thing
especially when you get to the point where you're not earning money anymore,
right?
Because you're unreliable and you can't keep a job,
right?
And a lot of people don't realize, but there only like 30% of people, I think the statistic is, with lupus can even keep a job. So a lot of us are not working. And then we have all these really expensive medications and appointments that we have to go to. So that's a burden on, whoever is paying all the bills.
Yeah.
And if you're married, disability doesn't want to help you with much. So
that's true. That's true.
Depending on what your family, that's a whole nother story.
True.
Yeah. So
I have one more question for you. What would you want other people to know about you and others living with lupus?
Well, I think the biggest thing I would want people to know is that I'm doing my best, and I'm harder on myself than anybody else could be. That if I'm doing something, I'm probably doing too much. And the judgments of other people deciding that I'm not doing enough, or I'm putting too much pressure on my husband, or that I'm using my illness as an excuse because, it must be great not to have to work, those kind of things. I want people to know that this is a hard disease to live with. This is not easy. This affects everybody in my family every single day. We don't get a break from it. And this is going to be my life for the rest of my life unless they find a cure. So I would hope that people would get a little more sensitivity, ask questions if you don't know, don't assume things, and be kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So the question of the week this week was, what is it like to have chronic illness during a pandemic? Good question.
Well, I have two answers for that, actually, because in one way, it's no different. This is how we live every day.
Right.
I mean, really.
Being homebound, we're used to this stuff. Yeah,
right. I mean, it's really not that much different. But also, I think it's scary because me being on immune suppressant drug makes it's easier for me to catch anything. So the idea of catching this virus is really scary. So, everybody who acts like it's not a big deal, and, they're not wearing masks, and they're not doing social distancing, and they're not trying to do anything because they think it's stupid. Those people scare me because my life matters, and I'm sorry my life doesn't matter to them. Their life matters to me. So I guess I just don't understand why they're so casual about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I have to go out, I wear a mask. Um, and every time I go out, I'm always amazed at how many people you'll see just don't care. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, or with their children and things like that. So someone like me with a low immune system, it's bad enough, but you see children and elderly, and it's wear if you're not gonna wear it for yourself, wear it for them.
Exactly. And they'll say stuff like, well, if you're wearing a mask, then you're fine. Why are you worried if I'm not? You're protected. It doesn't work that way,
Mm-hmm.
I went to the store. I got to tell you this. I went to the store. There was a guy who parked next. He gets out of his truck with his 2 kids, and he is literally snotting everywhere. He's wiping it on his arm. He's coughing. And I was just like, oh my goodness. I waited for him to go by and went the other way and I'm thinking, he's bringing his kids in. None of them have any protection. He's not wearing a mask. Like, there are people like this who just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why we're going to have major issues. I mean, have you been watching Facebook?
I'm on Facebook.
People on Facebook are just like, there's a camp of people that are just like, I'm not wearing a mask. You can't tell me what to do. You're not going to suppress my freedoms. Da, 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 da. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, did you hear about the guy who went to Target and he didn't have a mask? So the security guards told him he couldn't enter. So in reaction to that, the guy broke the security guard's arm.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's scary. I don't care
Yeah.
who you are. You have absolutely no respect for anybody. Just you're gonna break their arm over something so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think they feel like their freedoms are being threatened, and this is not about freedoms being threatened and us being good little sheep and doing what we're told.
This is about self-preservation.
Exactly. My family wants me to stay alive. I want to stay alive.
Right.
So I wish that people would consider other people. I really they won't, but I would. It's a good hope.
We can always hope. Yeah. So, Kay, what is the topic for next week?
Painkillers and chronic illness, and we are featuring a very special guest named Lori, who is going to tell us all about her experiences. And I am so excited.
I know, me too.
Our first guest speaker. And everybody, anyone who's listening, I'm telling you, tune into this one because it is going to be great.
It is. It's going to be amazing. It really is. I want to give a quick shout out before we wrap this up to neuropathy awareness community, as well as chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And a super amazing thanks to all the nurses out there. Nurses Week this week.
Yes, thank you so much for putting yourselves out there and helping us. So the quote of this week is about lupus, of course, since it's Lupus Awareness Month. And it says, "Dear Lupus, you came uninvited like the thief you are. You invaded my body and my life silently, and you have no mercy. You have stolen my life's work, my health, my vision of myself. You tear at my relationships with relentless teeth, rending and damaging wherever and whatever you can. However, you forgot when you planned your war. I am more than my work. My relationships worth having heal, and they stand steady under attack. I continue to rise again and again to reinvent myself. And most important, there is a part of me you can never touch without my permission, my soul. I am God's child, and you can never take from me what I refuse to give."
I absolutely love that.
I do too.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
And I'll post that on our media pages. You can find us again on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Well, guys, I think that's it for this one.
All right. See you next time, Spoonies.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.